Sebas. Hello, Agus. How are you today?
All good, all good. Just checking we're going live.
Are we going
Hello.
live?
That's a very good question.
Okay,
Right,
so
let's see.
hello everyone. Thank you for coming. We are in this new era
Are we
of,
live? I'm gonna
of
check too.
live streaming, and we are checking if we are actually going live. And in the meantime, I'll take the moment to mention that if you are not watching it live, then all of these conversations can be rewatched through our YouTube channel. We upload them later, and you also have all the previous ones with very interesting topics. Of course, not as interesting as the one that we're going to talk about today.
Of course not.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yes.
Okay, shall we start?
Yeah, let's go for it. If it's
Let's
not
go.
live, we'll upload it later. No worries.
Okay. So I took over this conversation because one of the questions that we get when we go to Antarctica is about humpback whales, of course, because mostly in Antarctica, although also in the Arctic, and I will tell you now about that. Humpback whales are the stars of the whales that we see there. And sometimes our guests ask us, like, do these whales stay here all year round? What are they doing here? And because of this time of the year that winter is already in the South Pole and that summer is beginning in the North Pole, I wanted to take the time to tell you what is it that humpback whales do this time of the year and throughout the year. And Agustin is going to help me with the presentation. So let's jump into it, Agus. So humpback whales, I would like to believe that most of you guys watching know what humpback whales are. Hopefully you've seen them live or not, but they are these strange looking creatures. They are one of the most famous of the whales. To me, they're one of the most strange looking with that elongated rostrum. What you're seeing there is a mother and a calf. But one of the main features of the humpbacks, it's hidden in their scientific name. Humpback whale scientific name is Megaptera novaengliae. Scientists like to call out for certain characteristics when they put the scientific name there. And mega means big, and ptera actually means wing. And it is one of the main characteristics of humpbacks that they have the longest pectoral fins of every whale. And you can see those there, those white long fins, that in the next photo that I will show you now. This is an amazing aerial photography taken from a drone in Antarctica. And you can see there how those pectoral fins can get to reach up to 1/3 of the total length of the animal. I thank Renato Granieri, our friend photographer in Antarctica, that lent me this beautiful photograph of a humpback whale. This is actually a juvenile in Mako Harbor. So next, please, Aus. Or is it loading? There we go. So most of the whales are, well, not most whales spend a lot of time under the surface. They are 100% aquatic mammals. They spend all their life cycle in the water, but they spend only, depending on the species, only a 10% of their time in the surface. This is because they need to go and breathe air because they are mammals and they breathe through lungs. But it is really incredible to think how little time they spend in the surface. And this is the time that we get with them, to study them, to see them, and to deploy amazing artifact that helps biologists know what they do. But it is true that humpbacks are one of the most aerial marine mammals of all. They love doing displays. They show their tail or their fluke. It's a very particular feature of them, the way they surface. They do a lot of breaching, that is jumping out of the water, like in that photo that is from the population of humpback whales in Maui. And the name humpback actually comes, which is in the next slide, from that very small and hump-like dorsal fin that they have. Instead of having a falcate or a very pointy dorsal fin like other whales have, they have this sort of hump, and that's where the common name comes from. And so, next, please. I wanted tell you where do they live. And if you see a map of a humpback whale distribution, this is what you will see. If the turquoise color would show the humpback whale distribution, it's all over the world. They are a cosmopolitan species, and that means that they inhabit every ocean in the planet. But that doesn't mean that all the oceans are like a humpback whale soup. They are distinct populations. It's not one common population, but on the next, please, you can see there that they are up to, it's a little bit in discussion, but between 14 and 16 distinct populations of humpbacks. And in biology, a population of individuals, it's basically a group of individuals of the same species that live and interbreed more or less in the same area. They would share the same resources. They would be affected by the same environmental variables. And also a very important thing is that their survival is dependent on interacting with the other individuals of the same population. So there you can see, and in the next slide, please, the different populations of humpback whales depend on their warm water breeding grounds. And the warm water breeding grounds are actually the grounds that they are during the tropical winter. So you have to think about seasons depending on the northern and the southern hemisphere. Both populations, next please. So if you think about an imaginary line like the Ecuador, if you think about that, during the tropical winters, you're going to have the northern and the southern hemisphere populations, and they are going to take advantage of the warm waters of the tropics to reproduce, to give birth to their calves, for nursing them, and so on. And so when the winter in the northern hemisphere would start, the northern population will migrate then north to feed to the Arctic, and the southern population would migrate south. So every known population of these humpbacks, with the exceptions of a population that is in discussion, if it's actually a population that always stays in the same sea, but that's in the Arabian Sea, it's like an outlier. But every known humpback population performs long seasonal migration. They commute none less than from the tropics to the Arctic. And so in the slide that I was about to show, there you can see the whole map and the whole oceans of the world. And if you look first to the green dots, there you're going to have the more or less 14 population when they are in their breeding ground. So that would be the tropical winters. And then you can see that the displays, the movement, the commuting that they would start doing, the populations from the north would migrate up to the Arctic, to the northern oceans, and the ones that are in the southern tropics will go all the way to Antarctica. And just
So, Lou,
see,
so the populations in the north and the populations in the south won't meet.
exactly.
They will be
Unless,
up and
exactly.
down together.
Exactly. Unless, because of some reason, they get to mix a little bit at some point in the tropics, because sometimes juveniles tend to maybe escape or reroute or leave the group, and that could happen. But regularly, that would be the separation between the two big groups of humpbacks, northern and southern sea. Exactly. And just as a curiosity, I was going to show you that there are some red dots there in the Arabian Sea, in the Arabian Peninsula, and that is one of the population that it's a very endangered population, but it's more or less stays around there and doesn't migrate as much as the other whales.
Okay.
And so it's really incredible. And depending on where the population lives, individual migrations can be from 6,000 kilometers to more than 1,500 kilometers long, which is incredible. And this is the longest migration that any mammal on Earth does. The other whales, like the blue whales or the fin, don't migrate as much. They are more bounded to a very smaller home range. And the longest migration of all are the population from Panama at the northern part of South America that go all the way to Antarctica. And So during the winter, they go to the tropics where the water is, even though it's winter, it's still warm. And they choose these grounds for the most important part of the cycle of any living organism, which is reproducing, calving, nursing, and mating. And even though there is a lot of discussion of particular reasons of why they choose these grounds, it's mostly because they are shallow, of course, warm waters. When the babies are born, their blubber layer, the fat layer that they have around their bodies, is very thin, so they need warm water. They're still not ready for cold water, so it's nice for calving, but also are very shallow waters with sandy bottoms. And if you think about it, it's like a great playground. It's like when you take your kids to the park or to safer areas, because also in shallower waters in the tropics there are less predators, which is the key characteristic of choosing your breeding ground. So even though everything is beautiful in the tropics for reproducing and giving babies, these waters are not very productive, which means there is not a lot of food. And this is another amazing thing about these incredible animals that can get to measure like 15 meters long and many tons. That is, during the breeding months, they do not feed. The mothers have built their reserves during the feeding moment in the summer, and when they migrate and for doing the calving, they do not care about eating. They give all the energy to the calf. So let's focus, for example, in the southern hemisphere population. When the moment, like when the summer, when winter is ending and the summer is starting, around October, November, mom is going to be hungry, the calf is going to be fatter, so they're going to start their migration south to start getting colder waters that they will be able to cope with, and also they're going to go for food. And what happens in the southern summer in Antarctica? Life blooms. And so in the next slide, I will talk a little bit about what they do when they start moving. This is what they're looking for: feeding,
Do you
feed.
know? Do you know how long they take
These
usually?
migrations, I will tell you a little bit ahead, but you mean
Okay,
is
don't tell.
how long it takes from getting to the calving grounds all the way to the feeding grounds,
Yeah,
depending on
and
when
if
they are, where they are, from 6 weeks to 8 weeks, from between a month and a half or 2 months. It's
that's
incredible, but
incredible.
they're gonna more is about to come. So they are then going with their calves, or the juveniles are going to feed. Let's say that they're heading to Antarctica, and humpback whales are part of the baleen whales. They do not have teeth, but instead they have these baleens. So they do filter feeding, sort of speak. And these big animals feed on very small animals. It would depend on which whale you are. If you're northern or southern, what you're going to eat most. So on the next slide, if you are a whale from the northern hemisphere, your main food resource is going to be small schooling fish. They would eat sardines or mackerel or mostly herring in the northern sea. And if you are a male from the southern hemisphere, you're going to go like this whale example that we just took that is heading to Antarctica. What they go and try to find is the amazing krill schools that bloom in the Antarctic summer, Euphasia superba, that also are like these big swarms of food that these whales come and get in the summer. And the way that they feed on the next slide, I think it's very interesting and worth telling you. They have these ventral folds. In the first photo of the top, you can see that kind of thing is a whale that is actually has an open mouth. There are two whales there. One of them is bended and has all the ventral folds expanded because just took a big gulp of water full of krill. And the other one in the bottom, I think if you take a look, you can see the mouth that is open, about to get that pink stripe that you can see in the water. That is a big school of krill, and that is called lounge feeding. They take big gulps of water full with krill or with fish if you're in the north, or also they would take big gulps. That's why they also call them gulpers, and they would press all that water out with the ventral folds, take the water out, but keep the krill or the fish inside the mouth using the baleen as if they were a sieve or a calendar. And that's what they do for months. For, let's say, they were in the tropics in the end of their winter, and they start coming down beginning of October. They arrive in November, and by December they are already in Antarctica, and they feed December, January, February, and at the end of February, when the Antarctic summer starts ending, they start going up north. And in the next slide, please. This is, to me, like the core of the things that we don't understand, but I really think that in part we can understand, but it's still incredible, is that when they are commuting, when they are doing these incredible migrations, you have to think that you are a whale, and even though you're very big, more than 20 meters long and many, many tons, you are in open ocean. Imagine this environment of light and dark, and they are swimming through all those variables. There is a topography, terrain, weather, turbidity, chlorophyll, temperature, salinity. They are all these variables getting to them that we are still, after 20 years or after, let's say, 10 years of remote science that we can do on these animals, we'll still cannot finish to understand how is that they use such a precise orientation way of navigating. So they navigate through all these variables, but all these variables are changing all the time. And in spite of this, they can find their way, and they can navigate with extreme precision. Gauss, can you put the next slide? This is a track of 6 or 7 different whales traveling from the coast of Australia all the way to Antarctica. That is more than 8,000 kilometers, 5,000 miles. And I don't know if, I mean, you can perfectly tell from the graph of this amazing paper that the track that they are following doesn't deviate much. So they can navigate with extreme precision for long periods of time in open ocean under any weather condition, and they just keep going. They swim very slow. There is an average between 6 kilometers and 12 kilometers an hour. They don't swim very fast. You have to also think that they left all the energy calving, so they are heading towards the kitchen hungry and with not a lot of energy. But they keep those tracks steady. And in the next slide, there is a very interesting one. This is from, I think it's from 2020 or 2012, I don't remember. But these are different tracks throughout years of different whales that go from the coast of Brazil all the way to South Georgia. And in one of these years of satellite tracking, there was a very big storm off the coast of Brazil, and that storm made the currents very crazy, and there was a lot of turmoil in the ocean, and that deviated only the heading of the whales between 1 degree and 25 degrees, but never their track. They just kept going, even currents change and storms go on. And to me, that's one of the most fascinating things that they ask. And how do they find their way in the open ocean? And there are many papers and many reviews about all the variables that they can use, like the sun orientation. They can feel the magnetic tilt of the magnetic field of the Earth. But what amazes me is that it always, every conclusion of every scientific paper is always, there is so much that we don't know, and that is inherited. It's imprinted in their genes and has to do with the evolutionary history of animals that migrate, just like birds, for example, migrating birds. And I don't know what I had ready on the next slide. Oh yes, I wanted to tell you that as we speak, this is a corridor, an IMA. It's an important marine mammal area. That's what IMA means. There are many important marine mammal traffic or commuting areas in different oceans of the world. I chose to show you this one because as we speak, the populations in the Caribbean are on the way north to Svalbard and Greenland and Iceland. And those would be the humpback whales that we would see if we would venture in the next few days or in the next few months in a cruise to Svalbard or the Arctic.
And possibly following the Gulf Stream.
Exactly. They also use the currents to navigate. But
right.
that is actually another really cool observation, that it was thought that the speed, the very low speed, had to do not only with the low reserves that they have, and they want to keep their energy and not expend it in swimming actively, that they use the currents. But even when the currents are doing something crazy, they still keep track. And that is just mind-blowing to me. And I hope to you too. And I think that is, is it owls or is it still loading? Yes, and that is all. That is it. Which is all, don't you think? I don't know. It's just, it doesn't matter how many times I read about this, or it just blows me away.
And just a question would be, how do people track them?
That is a very good question, and I don't know if I start sharing. I studied marine mammals, but mostly dolphins in the United States. And I worked with this amazing group of colleagues that now work in Antarctica and in New Caledonia in the north. And they put tracks basically using a zodiac and a long pole. I don't know, maybe I was in the next one. You can at least see the photo if the video doesn't start there. It doesn't start, right?
No.
If you click on it, it doesn't matter. But this photo actually shows the approach. There is a very long pole that Dr. Ari Philander is holding from a Zodiac boat. This is in Antarctica, an amazing day. And there you have 2 humpback whales that are actually sleeping in the surface. So this was incredible conditions. They approached them very slowly with the Zodiac. And with that long pole, that pole has more than 2 meters long. And they have a device on the tip. And they just go and tag it like they would put a Post-it on the whale. And they unleash the device, and it sticks to the whale. This particular device of the photo is a suction cup. It has 4 suction cups, so it stays for a few days on the top, on the back of the whale. But for doing the longer radio tracks, it's more like a piercing. They do it with a crossbow, but and they aim the whale, and it has like 2 little knives with a hook that stay in the blubber, and those stay for more than 3 months, and that's how you can do the tracking.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do anything to the whale. It's like a mosquito bite for them.
Hopefully.
So it's very superficial.
It's very superficial.
It's definitely very superficial.
Blubber layer. I never heard a whale complain, but in this video that I wanted to share, maybe I'll ask permission and upload it later because it's very interesting. The whales are sleeping. They put the tag, and seconds after the tag is deployed, they kind of wake up and breathe out and turn and look up to see what is going on.
That's nice. Yeah.
It's very nice. It's not bad for them. So it's really, really cool. And I am going to the Arctic in August, and I'm really looking forward to see some of these guys. So stay tuned for videos. Instagram. July, August. True.
Awesome. Yeah. We are on our way we're almost migrating north, you and me, my friend.
Exactly, almost in a few days. And we have a question. They also identify them by the fingerprints on their tails, right? Yes, that is a great question. There is also, as I mentioned, humpback whales are very, very studied. And one of the things that are very useful to study them is that the coloration pattern that they have on their flukes works as a fingerprint. So each animal can be identified by the patterns in their flukes. And there is an amazing citizen science project. It's been there for many, many years now, that it's called Happy Whale. And if you take a photograph of a fluke when you go to Antarctica or the Arctic, and you can, if the photograph has to comply with certain angle and lighting, and you have to be able to see the whole pattern, you can upload it to Happy Whale, and you would receive information back in your email if that fluke matches a fluke that was already seen, or if it's a new one, and you would get a map of all the places where that individual was seen. And it's really, really cool. You can actually name a whale if you find a new one.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. And it's a great database. Studying citizen science has done a lot for cetacean science, because as more eyes you have on the field, that means more information. And this is one of the best citizen science programs that we have.
Yeah, I have the same whale. I've been following the same whale for 8 years now, since 2017.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the name?
It's a number. I can't remember. Humpback whale.
It has a number.
I don't know. Yeah, there is no name yet.
But how come you've been following the same whale? Why?
By Happy Whale. Yeah, I uploaded a fluke in Happy Whale in 2017 when I was in Antarctica, and every season and every now and then, whenever it's being spotted somewhere else,
you get
an update, so you can see where and then you remember, oh yeah, this is my whale. So you get inside and you can see all of the places where it's been spotted.
Right.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, very nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So yes, I encourage every one of you to write us back and ask us where you can see these amazing animals, so we can take you. And also, if you have any questions or you want to know something in particular, you can also leave your questions in the underneath the video in the commentaries, and we can go back and forward. It is a nice ways to keep in touch.
Yeah, always. Well,
do you have any other questions?
No, that has been fantastic. I love it. Humpbacks are unbelievable.
Sorry?
The humpbacks are unbelievable. They are super nice, and due to the behavior patterns, I mean, it's
they're amazing.
One of the
they're
cool
fun
ones
whales
to see. Yeah.
There are other whales that are not as fun. All of them are incredible to watch. I always say that when cetacean have some kind of effect on people, when humans see a cetacean, something happens there. And
hypnotic.
It doesn't matter if you see just a fluke or a bag, and see humpbacks are like minkies that are they like doing displays and all. But I'm really, really looking forward to see Shire whales, like bowhead whales. I know they are very different in behavior, and I've never seen a bowhead whale. So,
well, let's go find them.
Well, maybe this year.
That's my quest for the year, and I will keep you updated on that.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming, and please leave your comments in the video once we upload it, and we will see you next time.
Great.
Until the next
time.
Guys,
and thank you everybody there.
See you next one.
See you next one.